What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So whenever we talk about these different sales charts and we go over the consoles, we typically talk about Microsoft, Nintendo, and Sony. Well, the other week, a different system actually charted. In fact, it outsold the PlayStation, and this surprised everyone because no one really knew what it was, so we had to look it up, and I'll go over exactly what this system is that's making headlines here today. Also, we are going to be talking about Sony entering a publishing agreement for what sounds like another live service game, but this one, maybe a little different people with the creative lead on it. And we'll also be talking about a game coming out of the China Hero project with Sony. This one, while it looks awesome, was notable because it's not only on PlayStation, it's also coming out on the Xbox. All of that and more. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button. Helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. Guys, we're here every weekday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern time, going over all the different bits and pieces of gaming news to keep you up to date. So even if you don't get a notification, just know that there's probably a video here for you in the morning. And we're going to start today actually with Amazon Prime Gaming. Now, if you already have Amazon Prime, these are games that you just get monthly, so I like to bring them up, especially when they're interesting, like good games there, because you can at least just add them to your library or claim them since you already have Amazon Prime. But let's take a look at this over on their website, and we'll just look at the PC games. They also go over some of the Luna stuff, so you can, if you have, I guess, Amazon Prime with Luna connected, you can just jump in and play some of those games. But for PC specifically here, we have Lego 2K Drive. That's through the Epic Game Store, so they'll spit out a key for the Epic Game Store. You can go there with it. That's actually now. December 18th, we have Bow Path of Teal Lotus. That's on GOG. December 23rd, Fallout, a post-nuclear role-playing game on GOG, and then Fallout 2 on GOG. So that's pretty cool to get 1 and 2, some classic titles there. And then they have a bunch of other games thrown in here at the bottom. Forgotten Realms on December 4th, that's through GOG. Guilt, and Guilt's interesting because that was the game that was on Stadia, and then they had it transfer over to kind of being its own standalone game without needing the streaming service there. That's December 4th, so it's out now. Forgotten Realms, The Archives, December 11th. Christmas Adventure Candy Storm on December 11th. Slugs 2 on December 18th, Ashworld on December 18th, Forgotten Realms, The Archives, December 18th, Dreamscaper, December 30th, Living Legends, December 30th, and Deus Ex Mankind Divided on December 30th. Not bad. Again, I just wanted to bring these up. If you have Amazon Prime, like, at all right now, you may as well claim these games since it's just part of your subscription. Also, it's been a long time since I've heard Dreams really be talked about at all. Well, take a look at this. This is posted over on X, and it's from William. It says, Banjo-Kazooie Mumbomania. It's out now on Dreams. That's on PlayStation 4 and on PlayStation 5 through backwards compatibility. And yeah, it's Banjo-Kazooie. I mean, I'm looking at the video for this. Like, they made an entire trailer for a game that they made in Dreams, and it looks really impressive. Like, it's hard to believe this was done in Dreams, but here it is. And yes, if you have it, you can just download or play it. I guess download it in that game and just play it right away. It doesn't cost anything outside of just buying Dreams. Or I'm trying to think if they gave it away on PlayStation Plus at one point, but either way, they do go over some of the backstory here. About 14 months, 800 plus hours of work. A lot of the concepts were born out of issues I had with the original game, and like transformations don't feel fun enough to use, stuff like that. So, I mean, really, really impressive stuff. This was, I felt like always the idea for Sony to have something like Dreams, which is like a creation engine. So really they can seek out talent. You put something like this out there, see what people create, and then you pick like some of the best stuff and honestly see if some of those people want to make games with you, engineer-wise or whatever. So this, while Dreams has kind of petered out now, and it's cool that it's still used to some degree for something like this, just doesn't really feel like it went as far as Sony would have liked it to, but that's also kind of on them because they never ported it to PC for whatever reason. I don't know. Media Molecule apparently is on to something new, so we'll see if they have something that's more like a game or if they stick with the creation engine aspect. Oh, and we finally got the release date for Replaced. It's been delayed multiple times, but with the new trailer you can see here, the release date is March 12th, 2026. That's on the Xbox Series and on PC, so Steam, Epic Game Store, and GOG, and it will be going into Game Pass. So if you already have the service, you'll be able to download it next year when it releases March 12th. I'm very excited for this game. The trailer, by the way, was really well done. I mean, it shows off, of course, kind of the look, that 2.5D narrative-driven action platformer as they describe it, but it has, of course, that retro flair on it. Kind of reminds me of when we first saw HD 2D with Square Enix. That's kind of what this is sort of reminiscent of, but this playing more into kind of the side-scrolling like pixel art, 16-bit style. So I'm really excited for it. The animations look great in some of the pieces that they showed here. And it's been a long time coming, but finally, March 12th, I'll be there day one. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with this surprise game system that kind of came out of nowhere, except it also kind of didn't, since it's been around for about 2 years, but it recently made headlines the other day when it was revealed that it had outsold the PlayStation 5 during what you would kind of regard close to the holiday season, just about, right? You're getting into like Black Friday week and there's a lot of spending going on. I know you usually get into December and that's when people are like, oh, Christmas right around the corner. Last minute shopping and stuff happens like literally a day before even going into Christmas Eve. But still, when you hear that a different system, not from Nintendo, not from Microsoft, did outsell the PlayStation in a holiday-like week, it's going to raise some eyebrows. And in fact, you can see this. This is from Matt Piscatella over on social media, saying the US best-selling hardware SKUs for week ending November 22nd, 2025. Ranked on units sold. That is an important mark, by the way. The first one was the Switch 2 with Mario Kart World Bundle. Number 2, NEX, NEX, Playground Interactive Gaming System, and then PS5 Slim Digital 1TB. Again, this is all on units sold, and that's important because the next Playground Interactive Gaming System is not as expensive as a PlayStation 5 Slim Digital 1TB or the Switch 2 Mario Kart World Bundle. Comes in priced right around $250. And I double checked over on Amazon, they have their best sellers list that a lot of times they'll even divide it up based on age groups. So they have one that's for kids electronics, right? And that's kind of the idea of the next Playground, but it's number 3 right now. Just like a couple weeks ago, apparently it was number 1, and that's when it was apparently outselling the PlayStation here. But it got to the point where it had just sold out online. And if you look at it now, again, it's number 3. It's right behind the Tony box and the mini arcade machine. So this thing might be unstoppable because it's kind of ridiculous that it's just behind those two things, which are also very, very popular. I'm sure kids, your parents out there with kids, the Tony box, you already know, right? So I looked over on the website for this thing because I was not familiar with this at all. And I get there and what do I see? The Kinect? I mean, that's what this thing looks like. So I'm looking around on this, right? And apparently it's kind of like a step up from the Kinect, and most of that's because it's all in one, so you don't need a separate system, right? You have the Kinect, but then you also need the 360. And it seems like it's just more advanced technology when it comes to tracking. So they say it's AI-powered motion tracking. And you can see the games, it's all targeted towards, yes, younger audience, but also kind of that family living room environment. So immediately I see Bluey, and I guess, yes, that's going to sell to kids. But they also have like Next Gym Fitness. They have Ninja Turtles, Rooftop Mayhem. They have Barbie Dance Party, Gabby's Dollhouse, Box Flow Fitness, Bowling Strike, so you can bowl in the game like Wii Sports, I guess. Peppa Pig, Home Run Heroes. You kind of get the idea as to the audience that they're kind of catering to. And even the system itself looks like a toy, you know? So here's the thing though. You have to get a subscription for apparently like the year. It's $89, I believe. They say a Play Pass unlocks the full catalog and delivers new games and updates automatically every month. So this business plan actually is not bad if you consider the fact that they're selling the system at $250. It seems like it's doing well enough right now if it's charting within reason with the PS5 and a Switch 2. And then they have a subscription service to go along with it that is, $90 a year. And it's kind of a reborn Kinect. It's just one of those situations where we usually talk about, again, Nintendo, Microsoft, Sony. So we're kind of walled off to even stuff like this to where, yeah, when it shows up, even in the rankings like that, just for a week, it's like, whoa, wait a minute, what is this? And then you look at it and realize, yeah, there really is a big general audience world out there to sell to. And it seems like this next Playground system may have tapped into that somewhat. Doesn't seem like it's Wii territory because the Wii was ridiculous and it was this brand new crazy thing. I know it's motion tracking and it's probably interesting because you don't even need controllers, which is a big thing. I've said before, that's kind of a barrier of entry that we don't really think about. We pick up a controller like, yeah, we don't have to look at the buttons. Hand the controller to somebody who's never used it before. They're looking down. They're trying to figure out how to use both sticks at the same time. Whereas A, B, X, Y, circle, triangle, cross. they're kind of thrown through a loop there. If it's just motion tracking and they move their hands around and it works, all right, yeah, I can figure that out. But let me know if you've heard of this Next Playground system before, because again, I really hadn't, and it definitely caught me and it seemed like everyone else off guard when Matt Piscatella put those rankings up there, and it was just ahead of the PS5. Next up, let's talk about Sony and a new publishing partnership that they've announced for what would be their live service initiative. We can see this. This is over on PlayStation Blog. In a press release saying Sony Interactive Entertainment today announced a partnership with video game studio Bad Robot Games, a division of Bad Robot, the film, television, and theater production company founded by J.J. Abrams, for SIE to produce and publish the studio's upcoming project, an unannounced 4-player cooperative shooter directed by Mike Booth, who is known as the creator of Left 4 Dead. The game is currently in development for PlayStation 5 and PC, saying, quote, partnering with Sony Interactive Entertainment allows us to bring our new IP to life with an expansive vision for this new universe. That's Anna Sweet, who's CEO of Bad Robot Games. With the support of PlayStation, we hope to deliver a bold, innovative experience that is truly special for players. I cannot be more excited that Mike Booth is at this creative helm, crafting a cooperative adventure that will lead to unforgettable moments with friends. So here's the thing. Okay, creator of Left 4 Dead, you start to think, okay, cooperative shooter, 4-player, I guess. If you go that route and it's just going to be another Left 4 Dead, we've kind of had that with Back 4 Blood, and I just don't know if that really caught on like they were expecting to. So you have to show up with some kind of new wrinkle for the entire experience. And maybe they have that, and maybe that's why Sony has shown up and is like, yes, we will be the publisher for this, we'll partner, and we'll get it on the PlayStation 5 and then also on PC. I still think this is the strategy Sony should be going with. Rather than tie up their first-party studios in this whole live service push, they should be partnering and publishing games that should have some potential. And here you have the lineage and the creative helm here from Left 4 Dead. It's like, yeah, let's give them a chance. Let's see what happens here. And if it works out, great. We're along for the ride. And it would work to help to, at that point, have a big live service game to push the PlayStation 5 and PlayStation Network and collect all kinds of money there. Similar to what they've done, of course, with Helldivers 2, except they own Helldivers 2, but they would also kind of own through publishing this as well. The rights details and stuff, hard to say necessarily how that works out. But at least for now, this seems to be the correct strategy. Last time they kind of did something like this, they ended up buying the studio with Firewalk, so I don't know if they're going to go that route here. It seems like, we'll just partner up, and here's hoping it ends up being an interesting game and not necessarily just a Left 4 Dead clone, although, I don't know, people still like Left 4 Dead. I'm just hoping for a little bit more. Still, it was just a press release put out there, no trailer or anything else, so seems like we're a ways off from seeing this game in action. Next up, let's talk about a new game coming out of the China Hero Project, and this is an initiative Sony's done where they go around to different regions and they'll basically incubate projects and partner with small studios, and eventually they come up with a game that they can, yes, put on the PlayStation 5 and help to push it along there with releases. This one, though, caught a lot of people's eye because it's like, hey, we want to make a game, but we don't want to use the Avatar: The Last Airbender license or IP or anything, kind of make our own version of it, sort of. And they put out an entire gameplay trailer showing this thing off, and I gotta say, the game looks pretty good. So you can see some of it here. And this game is called the Godslayer. Now, it's from Pathia Games. And they put out, right away, they put out like a cinematic trailer kind of. And people are like, okay, I gotta see gameplay. And then boom, they show up with an 8-minute long gameplay trailer or so. And they say it's an it's an open world action RPG. And as soon as they're showing it off, there's parkour and climbing. And you're kind of running around different parts of the environment you can interact with. And it looks like you can just take shingles off of a building and slam it into enemies as you're running around, or take parts of like the roof or the flooring. And so you're basically able to use telekinesis to start throwing stuff everywhere. But the main character, they say, is an Elemancer, and you can just then control different elements. And we see fire, there's earth, where you have like stone gauntlets that you're punching people with. You use water, ice, all these things are shown kind of intertwined during combat. Looked pretty fluid for the combat, by the way, when they were jumping around between these different elements. I will say this, it's they did say right away, hey, we're going to show you gameplay, but it's not necessarily final product kind of stuff. And I do want to cut some of these companies, some of these smaller developers some slack when they go, we're going to show you the game, just how it is, and just say, you know, we'll judge it when it actually comes out rather than here's some alpha footage or something. Anyway, the visuals, I think, though, look good. Get slight jank there with the early footage, but for the most part, I think for its timeline right now, it looks pretty good. And I do like they call the Eastern steampunk inspired look. I think it looks very interesting and different enough to kind of separate it right from the field. And of course, it being compared to Avatar: The Last Airbender is already also bringing in some interest there. But this, as part of Sony's China Hero project, there's some confusion because it is multi-platform. So it's on PlayStation 5, PC, and Xbox. And that threw some people through a loop because the China Hero project is, well, it's only going to be on PlayStation then. Not the case. I mean, we had Push Square reaching out to Pathia asking about that. Like, hey, is this China Hero project? Because it's on Xbox. They say they're still getting backing from Sony for this, but they are also putting on Xbox. So interesting stuff there. I guess Sony is good with that. Hard to say what the business arrangement is with that behind the scenes, but I mean, if nothing else, the Godslayer I think looks really, really cool, and I'll certainly be keeping an eye on this. Something tells me, though, we're still a ways off for it. I wouldn't expect it until maybe sometime in 2027 at the earliest. Still really cool look at, I think, a game that is at least different enough to stand out, even though, yes, it does kind of look like Avatar: The Last Airbender with a bit of a steampunk twist. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about the Famitsu sales charts that were published yesterday. This, of course, goes over sales in Japan week by week for different games and systems. And we can see this. This is over on Install Base Forum. They have it stacked up nice and neat here. Mario Kart World, though, is at the top, 49,586. That game just continues to trudge along, of course, with the bundle, I'm sure, moving quite a bit in terms of software along with the hardware. But still, I mean, it's over two and a quarter million in Japan now, lifetime. Pretty quick there. Kirby Air Riders, that's continuing on along nicely there, 46,287, up to almost 250,000 copies sold now. Pokemon Legends ZA, this would be on the Switch 1, 35,225. We also have it at number 5 for the Switch 2 with another 20,031. It's tracking a little behind, I think by 30,000 or so if you align it with Pokemon Legends Arceus, so it's right there with it. Then we have Momotaro Densetsu at 4, and at 6, as that would be on the Switch 2 there. Moving number 7, we have Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment, 9,647. So that has now, it just crossed 100,000 copies there in Japan. Then we have Minecraft, Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD2D Remake, and Animal Crossing New Horizons jumped 48%, which I'm sure there's a lot of buzz again around Animal Crossing New Horizons after that recent update. Moving over to the hardware, the Switch 2, 97,677 systems. That moves its lifetime to date up just under 3 million units sold in Japan alone. The PlayStation 5 at 35,786. And I mean, the Switch 1 is right behind it, 35,327. Remember, the PS5 did have that Japan specific model that is cheaper. And I think right now Sony is just doing that, of course, to sell more units, but also the PS5 is getting a bit older now. And I think they want to keep it from completely, just crashing in Japan for how expensive it was getting. So I think right now holding right around that 30 to 40,000 mark is good for PlayStation there in the region. Then the Xbox Series at 172 units, and the PlayStation 4, wow, there's 13 systems sold. So overall, just kind of an okay week. I mean, I think right now Nintendo, whatever they ship to Japan sells, and they're going to want to ship more than 100,000 units each week if they can, because it's in the holiday season. You're going to have these systems flying off store shelves. So I would expect to see a larger number next week, as will be into December. But the other thing's going to be Metroid Prime 4. How will it fare in Japan? As I've seen people posting up images of advertising all over the place, apparently in Japan, for Metroid Prime. So I'll be curious to see how that one does, because it typically doesn't sell well in Japan outright. Usually that's more of like a Western game. So I guess we'll find out though next week with those initial launch numbers. And before we go to the comment of the day, we'll take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, would you watch the Game Awards show if there were no game reveals? Okay, 82% of you were at least honest, saying no. 18% say yes. Some were saying I don't watch normally. I look for the announcements afterwards, or I watch Newswave. That's the move right there. You get everything condensed down with all the reveals, even the big winner at the end, and you get it done in less than I'll probably see if I can get it done in like 7 or 8 minutes this time. But that's the big draw, obviously. I know they hype it up as the Game Awards, but really it's hyped up as the Winter Mini E3. And that's kind of it. And even you can argue, is it really Mini E3 anymore? Because you have some of these companies showing up with some massive reveals, and I'm kind of expecting next week for the Game Awards to be pretty big in terms of reveals, because it's also going to be the first year it's on Amazon Prime, and I'm sure that's a number that Jeff Keighley would like to really pump up the audience there and retention. And what better way to do that than have a number of big reveals you can tease throughout the night and then eventually get to the game of year and have that really make that final push as to who wins the whole thing. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day as you're seeing here. This is from Mr. says, Micron getting out of consumer is incredibly short-sighted. So I did see people go, hey, we're not going to forget this. Just letting them know, because they did post to all their social media accounts and it was just a lot of people bearing them in the comments, and they got it rightfully so, because they just go, yeah, we're kind of done with you guys. We've been selling crucial RAM or SSDs for how long? I think it's been more than 20 years or something. It's been a long time. I think they said a number is 25 years or so, something like that. And that's a long time to just go, nah, AI's here, we're good. Because it feels so spur them, immediate, knee-jerk reaction of, that's a lot of money at AI. We're going to leave this business that we've been around in for a long, this consumer sector that we've been around for, we're very well known in, because of AI. And it's hey, okay, you know what? That's great. If that bubble bursts and you're kind of left holding the bag, we're not going to forget. So they're just, people just letting them know, and we'll see what happens, where Micron is in 5 years. Hey, they could be trillionaires for all we know by then, because the AI stuff takes off. But if not, they might also be gone. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. If you missed yesterday's Newswave, I'll leave it up here in a card. Or maybe you wanted to hear about a PlayStation 2 demo disc that had such a serious issue that Sony had to actually warn us about. I did an entire video on that, and I'll leave it right below. Thanks, guys, for watching. Have a great weekend. I'll see you back here Monday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time for Newswave.